Hagazussa is a psychedelic pseudo-witch story, but this hallucinatory experience comes through seeing the world through Albrun's psychosis. It's a very slow-moving, suspense-building experience that has almost no drop-offs. There's never short-term resolutions, as you tumble through this woman's life in the same way that Albrun doesn't know her fate. The viewer is strung along, waiting for the witching to start as they were promised in the beginning of the movie. Initially, we see Albrun's mother through her own eyes. She wasn't the best mother, but how could she be at that time? Especially when she had to raise a child on her own. It's seen that she was marked as a witch, which leads them to be harassed by the other townspeople. Now, dealing with this stigma and the work necessary to keep her and her daughter afloat, she falls ill, needing to depend on Albrun. But the sickness worsens quickly, leading her to a state of insanity, sniffing and molesting her daughter while in a near-death experience before passing away. Albrun never had a nice life, but at this moment, the one person she felt close to ripped away her feeling of security, which was quickly followed by her death, leaving her completely alone in this cruel, frozen world. But she's left with a piece of her mother, both in the way that she's perceived by those around her and the mental derangement passed on to her. Then we're met with Albrun older in age, in similar circumstances to her mother, living alone, having to raise a child on her own, nestled in a cottage with a couple dairy goats, which gives her the ability to function in the town's market. Albrun lives on the edge of society, isolated from the insulated community of the rest of the town. She hardly speaks when spoken to, which is built from her isolation and distrust of people, leading her to not have any connections to those around her. Which makes sense as she was the daughter of a suspected witch, so most of the people treat her as so. This is made more apparent by her relationship with the church, which is the central authority of the town. Since she and her mother were cast from the group living on their own, the tribalism of the religious community pushes them to treat her as an outsider, showing Albrun little to no respect. But why would they? When even the priest won't hold her dead mother's skull in the catacombs, stating that all sacrilege must be cleansed. He isn't truly scared of the women, he's scared of their way of life, living in seclusion and not basing their lives around Christianity. They have found that they can live their lives without the need of the church. He is afraid the other townspeople will realize that the church is unnecessary, thus losing his power over them. So the church ousts these women, making them seem like an enemy to the pack. So the others will fall back towards the church and disparage others from living the same isolated lifestyle. But Albrun isn't isolated for long as she starts to develop a relationship with Swinda. She stops the kids from harassing her and visits her while no one else does. But while she's visiting, she shares her hatred with Albrun. She states that she doesn't feel afraid in this town, since they're removed from those who don't carry God's light in their hearts, citing Jews and heathens as committers of this sin. Who, she says, comes at night and rapes you, leaving you pregnant. But how could Albrun believe these words? She saw what the Christians did to her mother, showing up at their house at night, threatening her life for being unlike them. Now they're demonizing others for actions they partake in. Albrun's budding friendship comes to an end just as quickly as it started. Swinda sees that she is a single mother and probably believes that she is a bastard child. So Swinda otherizes her, saying, "It's disgusting how you stink, your rotten stench," before having her husband choke Albrun until she passes out, only for her to wake up and find her goats have been murdered and skinned. Again, Albrun puts her trust in another person, and just as she starts to feel comfortable opening up to people, they tear her down. She had done nothing to Swinda, but her hatred has no bounds. Now, the one person that was friendly to Albrun has turned against her. Her dairy goats are killed, so she lost her only way to trade, which feels similar to her losing her mother. Now, all she's left with is distrust and no security for her and her baby. So, if you can't find a hint of empathy in the most open of the townspeople, then why should she care for any of them? She plants a decomposing rat and pees in the town's water supply, which quickly sickens and kills the Christians. Albrun seems excited about their death, as she cracks a smile witnessing their carcasses being wheeled around. This is where her disconnection from reality truly sets in for the viewer. Though she had been troubled by these people, poisoning the entirety of the town with no remorse is dark, something that is against the normal functioning of the human brain. But this becomes even more clear when she eats the mushroom, which takes her further down this hallucinatory state, ripping her further from reality. While holding her baby, she walks into a pond, lowering him down into the water and ending his life, only to wake up sober and find her rotting child laying on the table. It could be said that she couldn't handle her mushrooms, but this is a normal side effect for those with psychosis or schizophrenia, becoming prone to losing touch with the material world when taking psychotropics. But now she's lost everything. The only reason why she was able to live was by trading her milk with the town, in turn getting food for her and her daughter, while the only thing that kept her going was her kid. Now she's starving, she's poisoned her only water source, purged the town of people, and killed her own child. In a mix of psychopathy and survival instinct, she decides to boil her rotting child to eat, which she finds she can't do, and brings her hallucinations to a peak, seeing visions of her mother and giving her the paranoia of being chased. So she instinctively runs away to the top of the mountain, where she spontaneously combusts. Everyone that I know that I've talked to about Hagazussa always brings up their disappointment with this ending. But it's kind of beautiful. Those suspected of sorcery at the time were hunted down and burned at the stake. But in this instance, there were no Christian townfolks to roast her. Once she got to the top of the mountain, she gave up, falling to the floor, laying limp while the fire built around her. She was tired of dealing with the world and the mental anguish passed down to her, and this way she was ending the cycle, which would have been continued with her daughter if events went differently. She would have passed down the curse, pushing her into the same isolation as her mom and grandmother before. Albrun's death was an inevitability with the hatred that had been brewed throughout the town, so it was either she would be erased from existence, or the town would go down with her, and she decided the latter. It truly emphasizes the ignorance of the time, which was reasonable since science had hardly been developed, so no one understood mental illness or disease, and they all believed in God. So sorcery seems like a reasonable explanation for unexplainable phenomenon, in the same way that a god can be used to fill the void of understanding our existence. But anyway, I felt like keeping to the witch theme following the Suspiria video, but I wanted to choose a film that was on the opposite end of the spectrum, a more realistic depiction of who these suspected witches were and how the ignorance of believing in religion can lead to ungrounded hate towards others. I really thank y'all for watching this video. Throw a like and subscribe if you want to, and I hope I see y'all next time.